This is awesome. I don't know if y'all caught the short video that I dropped last night. If you haven't, you can catch it on the replay. It's like 3 minutes and 43 seconds or 45 seconds, something like that. Okay, it's not very long, but it's a very powerful message, very inspirational message, and a great reminder for all of you that where you at right now ain't your final destination. I had to be reminded of that. And God did that through my biological dad. It's amazing. This is why we have to have that discernment so we know who's talking. And I'm gonna go ahead and tell y'all that the lighting, the ambient lighting that I have, I've got to go over here to the other device and pull that up because the way that it's set up, and I have a darker screen protector on this particular device, so I got to go on here while those notifications go out and go ahead and do our usual check here. And for those who are wondering, this is no trespassing allowed in the kingdom of God, because we know the kingdom of God is in the mind, and all the devil has is head games, so we learn not to let him do that. And so I'm going to go ahead and do what we got to do. Oh, and this is quite the season, y'all. Oh, man. And it's a wonderful one because when God speaks, we got to be listening. We got to be paying attention. When God speaks, you don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss it. You got to be able to catch when God is talking to you. It resonates with the spirit. You know, that's why I'm saying, even with the narcissists have the God spirit in them, that they don't have access to him. That's the difference between chosen one. That's the only way that God is omnipresent, is that he is inside every single living being that he creates. So that means that we need to be able to listen, because I'm going to tell y'all, the Jezebel that gave birth to me, I picked up when the God spirit was when God was using her as a mouthpiece briefly a couple times. I caught it, okay? And of course, she would have no idea, okay? She didn't even know she was a Jezebel. So this is why we have to have that discernment, so that we can tell, okay, wait a minute, that's coming from God. Oh, that confusion is not. Remember, God is not the author of confusion. So this is the Truth Seeker Podcast live on CHA's YouTube channel. I am Michelle Dickey, your host for CHA's Truth Seeker Podcast, streaming on the YouTube channel Narcissism and Cognitive Dissonance, where trauma healing and spiritual growth are front and center while combating radio frequencies for healthier living. That's our movement, y'all. And so I can see that it may look okay. All right, we got that going. I've got the chat up here, and so now I get to see what y'all see. Okay, so I can tell it's a little bit darker on that end over there. So let's see what we can maybe do about that. And trying to get that, as much ambient light as possible. As much ambient light as possible. And so we are in an undisclosed location, not in Florida anymore. You know, that reminds me, what was it in The Wizard of Oz where Dorothy said, or was told she's not in Kansas anymore? That's what it feels like. But see, y'all got to understand when God is speaking versus when the devil is speaking, because God uses all of his living creation. Okay, and we have to know when God is speaking versus when it's the devil speaking. Or, well, the devil's not really speaking, but is using the narcissist as a mouthpiece. And so I will check this periodically, everybody. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up on these messages. This one, as opposed to the previous hotel, does not have tinted windows. So, oh well, it is what it is. But I prefer this lighting as far as on yours truly's eyes, and as we are detoxing, it's best for us to be frugal with our frequencies. In other words, we have the power and authority on the inside of us to mitigate and just kind of lessen our exposure to frequencies that we know our body is not ready to readapt to yet. Okay, there are certain things that we've come to realize. Now, I bring y'all that as part of our movement. I'm educating you all and helping you get the awareness you need so that you also can learn how your autonomic nervous system is responding to certain frequencies, and then also other toxins in the environment. So in order to do that, You got to have the education and the awareness. So that's what it's all about in our movement. And, you know, one thing I want y'all to remember is that the narcissists have an agenda. And I have a whole playlist on this YouTube channel titled The Agenda of Narcissists. And we are still building that. We are still building that. And so please share your insights, okay? Share your insights. It's very important for us to be iron sharpening iron here and to understand that they do have specific agendas. And I'm learning more and more each day that they're all given one very specific assignment. And yeah, it's a head game. And it's the only one that they're allowed to have. Yeah, I'm still pondering that because I was like, okay, because there have been some things that have occurred as I've been on business trips inside hotel rooms, like messing with my chair. Y'all gonna hear more about that later on elsewhere. But I know these things. The chosen ones, this is why God said in 1 Peter 5 verse 8, you got to stay vigilant and aware because our adversary, the devil, is always roaming about seeking whom he can devour. Meaning, right, who he can confuse and who he can instill fear into. Because along with that confusion is going to come fear. Okay? Yeah. So they come in and the only, and you know who it was because the only reason that they were in here was to do what? Clean. Okay, so you know who it was, and you know what they did because you know your stuff. You know how you have things organized, and you know exactly where you, that's the thing. I don't know about y'all, but I'm very meticulous. Okay, I'm very meticulous about how I organize things. And so, like in undergrad, I will tell you the ex-psycho roommate hated it. He hated it because I knew when he was in the apartment when I wasn't there because he moved stuff. And so I would say, hey, what time did you stop by? Stuff like that. He didn't like it. Narcissists don't like that. But that's the kind of attention that we develop, okay? Chosen one, don't forget that. And so we're going to notice things like that. And don't let it confuse you, okay? Don't let it confuse you if they move stuff or what have you. And also don't let your mind wander. Don't be sitting there going, well, what? No, because I went there a while ago. Okay, I went there a while ago. I said, but wait a minute. When you think about how the devil is not omnipresent, only God is. And so you're like, okay, hold on a second. And then how the narcissists have the attention span of a gnat, right? So they're only going to be laser focused, right? They have blinders on. They have worldview blinders on. So they're only going to see what they can see. Like, it's not going to be past the edge of their nose. Okay, they are going to only be going in, they're like one assignment, that's it, that's all that they can focus on. Think about that. They cannot multitask mentally, which is a big reason why chosen one can multitask. Narcissists can't. They fumble at it. They cannot multitask. They can't do multiple things at once. Like they could, no, I'm not talking about the narcissist who are content creators. Okay, I'm talking about the fact that in a given environment, okay, being given a few tasks to work on simultaneously, they would get flustered and give up real quick. Chosen what we don't, okay? So we know how to multitask because we can do that up here too because we have control of our mind. They don't. So when you think about demonic possession, that means that they play a head game, okay? They can only do that one thing. That's it. That's their assignment. That is, the human host had that one assignment at that particular place, and it's becoming clearer that one, and it's going to be obviously somebody who works in the place who is given the one assignment, a head game, to lower the chairs every time they go in. Make sure the chair is low. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, obviously, because the narcissistic matrix, y'all, the biggest agenda of these narcissists is to send as many people to the big H as they possibly can. Duh. We figured that out. For those who don't know that, now you do. That narcissist is to send as many people as possible including each other, to the big H. Yeah, to try and get them dependent on man. See, I know that's why the Jezebel case study keeps checking in. Guess what? I got an update for all y'all. Monitoring spirits and everything. Have I had to go to a physician because of her physical assault? No, because I have one. His name is Jesus. So, there you go. Now, listen, one day at a time. Patience. I see a bruise. It's called ice pack time. And Boswellia. And we just take it easy. And we stretch and get rid of them air pockets. You better believe it. All right? So, that being said, the agenda, that's the biggest agenda, okay, of these narcissists, is to do exactly that. Is to send as many people to the big H as they possibly can. And, well, yeah, because they want to instill fear too. So don't forget that component. That right there is that's universal for all narcissists, is to instill fear. Okay, so that's the underlying agenda. All right, they got to try and instill fear because they themselves are living in fear. Remember, that's their projection. And so through the head games that they play to try and confuse you. Because if you, let's say, you put the chair at a certain level before you left, or you had it at a certain level. You leave, let's say, to go to the store. They do their job. You come back, and all of a sudden the chair lowered again. You're going to notice that. Don't let it confuse you. Because I sat there and I went, wait a minute. But see, this is why we're cautious, but we are vigilant and aware. So no matter that the chair is at the height that I prefer, I still put my hand back there and I check where it's at. And that's how I knew. I said, wait a minute. I said, that's lower than it was this morning. Hold on a second. I didn't do that. Who did that? Right. Okay, so anyway, you got it. You have to keep your wits about you, all right? And so that is one of their biggest agendas is to send people to the big H and get people dependent on man, okay? And I know that that's what she's doing. The Jezebel and her flying monkeys keep checking in to see if their handiwork paying off or what have you. And I'm here to tell you it's not. God is restoring. Listen, this is Jeremiah 30:17 in action, y'all. God is restoring. He is restoring. Yes, he's a restoration God. He's a promise keeper. And we have to be patient with it, though. We can't be rushing nothing. Especially, remember, y'all, I teach this all the time about don't force what's going to happen naturally, because when you do that, you screw it up. Don't screw it up. Don't screw up God's process. Let God do. Absolutely. Okay? Let God do. So what? Going through the detox, I mean, I'm going to tell you, it has its funny moment. I was like, boy, this body like this fluctuation stuff going on. But listen, it is one day at a time. Seriously. And I know narcissists don't have that kind of patience. But it pays off to be patient, because it's not God just restoring like it was, like it never happened. God said, I'm restoring, and it's build back better. It's build back better. Being more aware of things that I was like, man, I didn't know that I'm going to share with y'all, this is really cool. I found out that there's a certain spot, okay, on the front of your foot, like, if you stand on your tiptoes, right? Okay, all right, so if you do that, right there in the middle of that top of your foot part, right there, okay, it goes all the way up to, like, your gluteus minimus and maximus area, where there's sometimes, when you start working out, you feel that little dimple there. Well, then you got to feel that out. Well, you got to get the muscle there. Okay, that nerve is all the way down, right? Boom. I mean, I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, just to be able to feel that, I was like, whoa. I said, that's quite the connection. But yeah, if you step on it just the right way, you can feel it all the way up. Boom. It's pretty neat. But anyway, that's the thing. We start to realize these things about ourselves. as we're healing and growing and muscle building and all of that stuff. And it's fantastic. It is fantastic. But the agenda of narcissists, the biggest agenda, is to send as many people to the big H. Because I found out, God revealed to me that those who are trying to earn, they become a Jezebel, they're trying to earn their psychopathic status or stripes, if you will, or even sociopathic. Okay, once they do that, once they've accepted the ism mindset, then they are tasked with the assignment to see who they can get sent to the big H. And the only way that they will earn their stripe is if whoever they send to the big H actually becomes dependent on it, dependent on man. That is the only way. If they can send us to the big H all day long as we don't become dependent on it. We don't become dependent on man. As long as we don't do that, they're not going to get their stripes. That's why they do it to whoever they can. See, this is the thing, chosen ones. Remember, the little chair thing, whoever that is that got the assignment, that's their assignment. That's it. That's the only head game they got. That's the point I was trying to make earlier. That's the only assignment they got. That's it. Is to try and cause an accident and play head games, try to confuse you, and at the same time, number 3, try to instill fear. What else did they tamper with? Right? No, that's the only assignment they have. That their blinders on. The only assignment they're allowed to carry out is that one, and that's it. Because if they try to do too much, like the Jezebel case study, all the bruises, everything she did way too much. She overdid it. And it backfired. See, that's what I'm trying to tell y'all. When the narcissists do stuff like that, as they age, they get more desperate. And so what she tried to do, she overdid. She overdid. She screwed up. It's that simple. She screwed up. She did too much too fast. And that's a big way that we start to catch on, is when they do that. And so everything we say and do, either of God or the other fellow, we're being used, if you will, either way. I'm going to tell y'all, chosen one, God, okay, awakens us. Jesus saves our soul. We don't let the devil in. We give the devil the boot out of heaven, just like God does. So that means that we do the inner work and we unlearn the lies that we've been told, because the only way it would appear as though the devil was using us as a mouthpiece is if we are still believing and reciting the lies we once believed. Let that sink in. It would only give the appearance that the devil has access to us if we are still speaking the lies that we now know are lies. You see what I'm saying? We used to believe that they were truth. But we're no longer speaking those anymore. We're speaking God's truth. So once we unlearn, so that's the difference there, is that, because we're not demonically possessed, chosen one, they know it. They know it. But even though we're not demonically possessed, we've been delivered, because we go through the inner work, and deliverance begins within. Through that self-reflection and healing from the trauma. So when that happens, we're healing from the trauma and we overcome the triggers, then we don't allow the devil to even get into our headspace. So we have to that's why I say purge the subconscious, unlearn all that worldly garbage, and that's ongoing. So we can make sure we're not going to give in to the appearance or give the appearance of the devil having any access to us by telling those lies. See, that's the other thing, narcissists, and that's one of their biggest fears too. Okay, one of their biggest fears is the fact that we figure this out, and that the only thing that can possibly happen is them hoping that we are still telling the lies we once believed, so it would give off the appearance as though the devil has access to us. And so that's it. See, that's what I'm saying. That's why, just the same concept, y'all. That's why I tell y'all that the Jezebel case study and her flying monkeys are looking to see if there's any bruising left. And I have to tell y'all something. No, There's only the appearance. And I'll tell you, in certain places, because of the sunburn that occurred under the skin, that's all it is. There's no bruise there. I can tell you, in some places, there's no more bruising. It's just the fact that I've been in the sun a lot, and so underneath the skin where the bruise used to be, it's got a little bit sunburned, and so it's just going to take a little time for that to heal. And oh, let me tell y'all something. Oh, they're healing. Once we figured that part out, I was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. And so we got some self-care stuff, all natural herbal remedies, and then of course, for those of you who've been following us for a while, I've got an ointment that helps us to get those toxins out a lot quicker. And it's fascinating, but yeah, and I know that's what they're looking for. Right, they're also looking to see how we're doing with the corner of my eye. Let me tell y'all something. Yesterday was the first day that I sat down and drove. It was an 8-hour drive, but of course I stopped a few times. I stopped to get something to eat. Then of course I stopped to top off the gas tank a couple times and had to use the restroom. So I did stop and take breaks. And I was trying to find a place yesterday where the phone wouldn't heat up if I went live in the car, and it just did not work out. However, I did give y'all that short clip. I was able to get that on the YouTube channel. The title is "It's Not Your Final Destination." If you haven't caught that motivational message yet, I highly encourage y'all to do so. Okay, and so everything we say and do is of God. Well, we have to be mindful of that, because our thoughts are not God's thoughts. That's another reason why we need that discernment. So even though we know it's like, oh, okay, the Holy Spirit speaks. The Holy Spirit grants us utterance to speak. So you would think, okay, every time I talk, is that God talking? In part, yes. Now, discernment, okay, as to what is the message that is being delivered. You know, so you have to be mindful of that as well. It's not going to resonate with those it's not meant to. And, right, and so messing with the chair, trying to cause an accident, we talked about, well, that and confuse me and try to instill fear. Where's my fail button? But yeah, no, that's why I'm saying when we catch this stuff, it stops working on us because we see it for what it is. That's why I wanted to get on here and talk about this. Okay, so the devil can't read our thoughts. No, he cannot. He cannot. But demons know thoughts. Okay, all right, the demon spirits, okay, do they know the thoughts of their human host? Yes, because they're in control of them. Think about that. All those negative emotions that the narcissist internalize, all those negative thoughts, all those what ifs, all those going around expecting the worst kind of thought, all those negative thoughts. The demon spirits are the one giving it to them and in control of them. So yeah, of course they do. Do the narcissists know where their thoughts are coming from? No. They don't have a clue that those thoughts really don't belong to them, but they don't know that. So there were a few kids that were gifted, and the narc bullies would pick on them. Of course, the gifted one, chosen ones are very gifted, and and those same kids are now very successful in their own field, and the narc bullies in and out of prison. Oh, well, see, that illustrate. That's another that goes great with the previous message, where we were talking about the power of God. Because that's how it works right there. You see, that's what happened. When the narcissists pick on chosen one, very gifted, yeah, chosen one do and are very successful in life. And the narc bullies in and out of prison, well, there you go. That's just one way it happens. Where God flips that script now. There you go. And then, the narcissists love to get us to feel paranoid. Well, yeah, because they themselves are living in fear and constantly paranoid over things. Of course. And so they want us to feel the same way with them. They can't stand the fact that we don't have that. And did I feel a change in temperatures as I headed out? Not really, okay? Because I've learned something about that, how they manipulate the weather, and that the thermometers that we're given to tell us what the temperature is outside are not right. Okay, they're not accurate. They're rigged, because our body's internal temperature plays a big role in how we perceive, or how our ANS perceive, the outside temperature. Because I can tell you right now that while I was on my walk, my car temperature was reading 80 degrees. But when I got on my walk and I felt the breeze, I said, no, there's a 20-degree difference. But you got to be able to feel it. Your body's internal temperature has to be at a level where you can actually feel the real temperature outside. So, no. Between where we are at in an undisclosed location in Alabama right now, at the time of this video, in Alabama, where we're at, the temperature is not much different from where we were at in Florida. No. And, well, I mean, coming along the Gulf, I mean, it's like, it's warm, but it's not as warm as they want you to think it is. Yeah. It just gives off the appearance. If your body's internal temperature is higher than it should be, you won't know. It's going to feel hotter outside than it really is. And so, let me tell y'all something. That's what I was trying to tell you, that these got a little bit agitated, because yesterday was the first time I sat driving in my car for that long, in a long time. But I'm going to tell you, it was good for me. It was good for me. And it was good for my nervous system, too, despite the slowdown to the eyes. But listen, God restore. And that's only temporary, anyhow. Everything... That's only due to the fact that we are still rebuilding some muscle in areas where hot water is still hanging out. So it just takes time. That's all. That's what it is. And you got to remember something. The creatine, when you think about rebuilding muscle, you got to think about your eyes are a muscle too. Yeah. Your eyes are a muscle too. Your tongue, your eye, all your organs, your bladder, your kidneys, everything is a muscle. Your heart, the actual biological one. So, I mean, everything. So when you think of muscle repair, yeah, it's one day at a time. Especially when you're detoxing from a lot of radio frequency poisoning, and then of course excess salt that got held inside the body due to bruising for yours truly. So it'll take a little while, but we listen, y'all, we're doing fantastic. I have no qualms whatsoever. I'm thankful every day for even the small progress. I'll take it. I'm like, hey, yeah, that's it. That is progress. So out of the summer, now at the end of July, yes, does mindful is right. Okay, there you go. Yeah, we do find ourselves pausing before we speak. We got to think before we speak in a lot of ways. We must do that. And let's see. So hand sanitizer wipe, legit or no? Don't waste your money. Don't waste your money on that stuff. I want you to think about something. All the chemicals that they put in water, why do you need sanitizer? Think about it. Chlorine, in some places bleach, other chemicals that they put in the water to treat the water. Man, that should kill it. That should kill whatever is on your hand, right? If that existed in the first place. That's something I've come to learn too. Is that a lot of that stuff made up to instill fear and to get people to use unnecessary chemicals that basically stink and are just a waste of money. So don't waste your money on that. If you need to rinse your hands, you need to wash your hands, okay. A bar of ivory soap and water. That's it. That's all you need. There's enough chemicals in that water to kill off whatever you think might be on your hands. I'm just saying. And so what causes water retention? Muscle loss. I know, it's going to be what? That's simple. When you lose muscle mass, water goes where the muscle was supposed to. That's what causes the bloating, the water retention. Because your muscles and your ANS, they are like, I don't know any other way to put it, but they're like two sides of the coin. They go together. Your autonomic nervous system is a significant part, if not the circulatory system. It is a significant part of it. So if you are losing muscle mass, right? You're losing your muscle mass. Then you're also, your nervous system, it deteriorates along with that muscle mass that's now been cooked away. And so there's space there where the muscle used to be and where nerves used to run through. You mean, where the nerves used to circulate through, right? Okay. Well, if you lose the nerve and the muscle for the circulation in that area, there's your water retention, and boom, it's just going to hang out until you rebuild that muscle. Rebuild the muscle and repair the nerve. And then you repair the circulation, water retention goes away. Antibacterial. More about that on the Patreon channel. I know that's another one of those things that made up. It's made up. And so, yes, there you go. If someone's overweight, it is in large part water weight. And if they're not, okay, for the hotel motel room, the word is shallot or chalet. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. But yes, you are correct. Because the bloating and water retention stem from the loss of muscle mass. Because over time, if you are not using the muscles and you are consuming excess salt and being exposed to excessive radio frequency, over time, you lose that muscle mass. And along with that, you lose the nerve that were supposed to be circulating through that area. And so they get shrunk, if you will. And then the area gets really stiff and become harder to move because the salt in excess is a stiffener. And so when that happens, then water is unable to circulate properly to exit the body. And you need circulation to sweat. A big thing the devil doesn't want to see people do is sweat. Because he knows if we can still sweat, that means our circulation is working. And so if you are one of those who has jumped on the journey with us in our movement to combat radio frequency for healthier living, and you are, let's say you're starting creatine, protein powder, I can tell y'all you can do that all day long, but you still got to eat. I had a bodybuilder tell me, and I get it now. He says the one thing most people don't realize about building muscle is you want to make sure you eat something every couple hours. He said something. He didn't say no big meal, something. So if it's a handful of fruit, that's something. If it is a slice of wheat bread with butter on it, that's something every couple hours. Because that creatine likes food. I have learned that. I'm going to tell you that creatine, it likes food. And then your whey protein. There are types out there for mass building that do serve as like a big meal in itself. Here's the thing with your average everyday whey protein shakes is that I had a woman explain this to me at the vitamin shop, and so I understand it better now. When you eat every couple hours, okay, you want to, if you're going to do the protein shake, it's better to do it with that. So if you're going to eat, if you're going to do, let's say, I know for me, sometimes if I don't do 2 scoops of the protein powder at one time and I break it into 2 shakes in the day, I'll make sure that I'm going to eat something with that. It works better with food because I'm put the creatine in there. For me, that's what I have found. It works better with food because the creatine really likes the food. I'd still do the creatine straight up with water if I want to get it in there on an empty stomach and just get it working. But it's not long after that I'm like, okay, I need something to eat. It's like that creatine's like, I need some food. Because you're that creatine is to help build the muscle. Well, the muscle's like, I need something to work with here. So you got to feed them. Okay? So there's your tip, a little and more right there, as far as the muscle repair and building and getting, and over time, the water retention that's hanging out in those areas where the muscle is rebuilding, it will, the water, the bloating and all that will go away naturally. Okay? And of course, there are supplements that we can take if we are experiencing kind of more of an issue with that than what we should be because of, let's just say, a little bit more muscle mass lost in certain areas than we originally thought. Okay, there are herbal diuretics. Yes, herbal, y'all. And I'm going to go ahead and share with you dandelion root. It's real good for that, okay, to help get rid of water retention, to help your body process better. Because you got to get that excess salt water out of the way in certain areas, or the muscle's just going to continue to get cooked. Because that salt water, exactly. So it's very important to understand that. Because if you're not getting that excess salt water out of the way, and you're doing all this, I found this out. I said, oh, no wonder the radio frequency was at me there, and it's almost like the devil was stealing my progress. And so we had to put a stop to that. We found the herbal diuretics. And I don't like taking them, but, you know, it is what it is. To get through the season until there's enough muscle rebuilt and repaired in some areas where, okay, that high frequency is no longer going to that spot. Because I can feel it. I can feel it. So, right, but no, right, you gotta feed your body something, but you don't need to force feed it. That's correct. That's correct. So, getting the heart rate up to 180 beats per minute. Okay, I'm gonna tell y'all something. I don't know what the workout world is teaching about all of that as far as the heart rate. I'm going to simplify it for you. Remember we talked about this in one of the Bible studies when we learned about the 144,000, and we learned that God was telling us, hey, wait a minute, the numbers don't matter. Numbers don't matter. Because it can get all kinds of confusing going on there. Yeah, I said confusing, not confusion. It can get all kinds of confusing. Yeah, I meant what I said. Those of you who are meant to understand that, you will. So don't get caught up in the numbers. Don't get caught up. That's how they get you to buy all this useless crap. That is how they get you to buy this. Oh, buy this Fitbit watch. Buy this. This will tell you how many steps. This will tell you. Stop wasting your money on that stuff. God doesn't care about those numbers. I'm telling you, you don't need that stuff to tell you how many steps you got in. I count laps. I'm like, you know what? I can tell, okay, I know that if I'm going to go a lap, let's say this little park up here, I go one lap around. It's about the same distance as another park that I used to walk in Florida. About the same distance. I'm like, okay, I know for me to get all the way around one lap takes about 5 minutes at my speed walking. Okay, at the speed that I walk. Takes about 5 minutes. I want to get about a 1 hour walk in. That's going to be about 10 to 12 laps. Okay? If I'm walking my normal speed. Now, if I'm just doing a regular intermediate, that could be about 7 laps, which is fine. Okay? Because it'll take me 7 minutes or so for each lap. So it'll take a little bit longer to go around the lap. So less laps. So God don't care about the numbers. Just I pay attention to what my body's doing. And here's what I do. I know once I get going, okay, I know the heart rate's going up. My best practice is when I know I'm on the last lap, what I do is I do a cool down walk. I bring that heart rate back to normal by slowing down the walk a little bit and then stretch before I get back into the car. So I know my heart rate is back to normal. I know I've heard that they say if you're doing a booming cardio or whatever, it's not good to just stop. And I can see on that part. But as far as how many beats per minute, I would not get all caught up in that. Just get yourself in the best practice of, all right, you're going to do a warm-up. If you're doing cardio, all right, you're going to do a warm-up. You'll get that heart rate up a little bit, all right, and then you start getting into it, right, the aerobics, whatever it is you're doing. Don't be looking at no numbers, okay? It ain't going to matter. Be consistent. That's it. All right, be consistent with it, all right, and then do your cool down. I don't know, but I know the one trainer I was with there for a while who was a mentor when I was with Beachbody On Demand. He was real big about that. Take the 2-minute cool down. After you're done with that workout, and 2-minute cool down and stretch. And that's what we would do. Stretch, bring that heart rate back down to normal. You're good to go. So it's like, he didn't even say, oh, we need this many beats per minute. No, we don't get all caught up in that. Because that, to me, that would distract me from what I need to be doing. That would be a distraction. I need to be doing this move. I need to be doing the move, right? All right, so let's just do the move. All right, 30 seconds. All right, now let's switch. Let's switch. Okay. And just know that, okay, I got my heart rate up now. After I'm done with whatever it is we're doing, then we're going to do a cool down. And that's going to bring our heart rate. Now, when you are weight training and you are lifting weights, it's a whole different ballgame because 9 times out of 10 lifting weight, you're not going to get your heart rate up like that. Okay? It'll go up a little because you will break a little sweat, but it'll come back down. It's because you're taking your time, slow and steady, right? You shouldn't be doing nothing too fast with them weights. I'm just saying, so there's a big difference. But if you're doing cardio, I would focus on getting a method that works for you and don't get all caught up in numbers. Don't be buying all kinds of useless devices that basically add radio frequency exposure to your life. Think about that. If you're wearing one of them Fitbit watches, that's radio frequency, boom, right there on your skin. Come on now. Seriously. So, I would keep it simple. God is a simple God. He don't care about them numbers. And so, if you're doing a walk, think about laps. And then if you go to a place where it's a jogging trail, or a biking trail, and you find you can walk it too, so it's a walking trail, and you find that you just want a 1 hour walk in, and so you have a destination. You're like, all right, this is the starting spot. I know if I go all the way up to, let's say, this first or second guardrail, right? You have a place. You time it. That's all you need to do. You just 1 hour walk. All you gotta do is time it. You don't have to count your step. Focus on your breathing. And then I know me, I like to stretch it a little bit. And then when I'm speed walking, I like to twist when I'm walking. I like to be able to focus on things like that rather than, oh, how many steps? Oh, was that 101 or was that 102? It doesn't matter. We'll get the workout in. I know some people like to have that little stepper thingy to let them know they're getting 10,000 steps. If that's your goal and you have just that little device and it counts your steps, fine. If that works for you. But just know that God don't care about the numbers. Okay? So, yeah, not a great believer in liquid foods. Well, I feel you. I feel you, but I would tell you that even with muscle building, sometimes the liquid foods are a great break for your digestive system. So it's all about balance, right? There you go. It's all about balance. And don't forget that. But yeah, I too, the solid food, because I hear God's, sometimes when, let's say I go a couple of days and I haven't had any bread, God will speak up. He was like, hey, sponge. He's like, I need a sponge to soak some of that stuff up. We can get it out. So yeah, I do. He's like, sponge. I'm like, oh, I need to get some bread. Yeah, it reminds me of when the disciples told Jesus, they're like, Master, will you please sit down and eat? please eat something. um, well, that's true too. Poor circulation to the joint when there's too much salt in the body. That's what I'm saying. When there's too much salt water, what we were talking about earlier, if you lose that muscle mass, that salt water is going to hang out there and it's going to just cook everything there. And if if it's in an area where there's a joint, then yeah, it's not good for the joint, because it's that salt water is heat. Okay, it's like an internal heater, and so that heat is what slows down the circulation. And then, of course, if you don't have the muscle for your autonomic nervous, for the nerve to actually be circulating through, there you go. So, I mean, it's very important to understand that. And the devil knows this. That's why he uses radio frequency and excess salts and stuff. And, I mean, yeah, because he knows if he can do that, that over time, yeah, you get dependent on man. And so, yeah, and there you go. That's why I was trying to get on here and tell y'all, God don't care about those numbers. If you have a procedure and you know, you can feel your heart rate. You know it's gonna go up once you start picking up speed. So in order for it to come back down, just make sure if you do one final lap, do a slow down lap. Just slow it down, and you can feel your heart rate. And then make sure you do a few stretching and deep breathing exercises. Bring that heart rate back down. And once you do that, you're good to go. Good to go. But yeah, we don't need to get all caught up in numbers like that. Yeah. And yeah, no, yeah, I'm a bread lover, obviously. I had to be reminded to eat the bread. And so, the 1 hour would be depending on the speed of the walk. I have done 3 miles in 1 hour, because I got to where it only took me 22 minutes to go 1 mile. Literally. I said, wow, that's pretty quick. So it depends on the speed though. But yeah, if I do just a regular intermediate, I'm not really speed walking, then 1 hour would be 2 miles. So yes, you're correct about that. Yeah. And so sometimes I'll go for 2 hours, and I haven't been known to do 2 hours and get 5 miles in. Yep. So it's just depending on the speed that you're walking. So the fact you're able to do the exercises, okay, well, it just means that we're in better shape to be able to do them. You know? So yeah, in good shape to be able to do those exercises. Right, and it does. So the fact is that you get your mobility back once you start losing that excess salt water, and you start rebuilding the muscles and things like that, and you just stretch a little one day at a time, you know? So like, I'm like, okay, we're in a season of where I just got to make sure we stretch this upper back a good bit, you know, and just keep an eye on it. Yeah, just keep stretching over time. You know, that allows for circulation and oxygen to get there, and also the creatine and all of that good stuff. So, and I know you were being silly, being a little sarcastic there. I'm not really a bread lover, but I do know that. Now, I will tell you, crackers. On the other hand, I know you would think, wait. I will go for that bag of lightly salted Triscuits first. I don't know. I think I like the crunch. I don't know. Something about that. But I don't mind the bread. I know we need the wheat for digestive help and nourishment as well. So I get that. But I'm one to go for the crunch. I found out crunching promotes circulation in the head. And then little cheese and crackers. Yeah, I know. I'm with you on that one. But we got to mind our cheese intake though too, because cheese is very salty. So we have to be moderate with that as well. It doesn't mean we can't ever have it. We just have to don't eat it like candy, right? There you go. All right, cheese, crackers, part of the 5 a day, and well, it depends on how much cheese, for that matter, because yours truly, I pay attention to the salt that's in the cheese. And of course, it's going to depend on the cheese. Like I found out that feta cheese is not as salty as cheddar cheese. So there you go. Mozzarella cheese is also not as salty as cheddar cheese. So yeah, there's a lot of different variables in that, because you have a lot of different cheeses. So just take that for what it's worth. If you like mozzarella cheese, you can have that instead one day on crackers. So there you go. Feta, it's and you can get it. I know I've seen it in crumbles, and I've also seen it not crumbled, but like in a roll. And then don't forget about goat cheese too. Goat cheese is not as salty, okay, as other cheeses. So you have options there to get cheese in. And I like goat cheese, yeah. And a lot of varieties. Oh yeah, I mean, what, you got Munster, you have Gouda, you have, Lord have mercy. The list goes on. All right, y'all. So yeah, those little square cheeses. Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, all kind. All right, so there's your and more as far as healthier eating tips and workout tips and facts to go along with our combating radio frequencies for healthier living. And then also at the beginning, we talked about the agenda of narcissists and how their biggest assignment is to send as many people to the big H as they possibly can. And you can find out more about the agenda of narcissists by going to the playlist on this YouTube channel, Narcissism and Cognitive Dissonance, and finding the playlist titled The Agenda of Narcissists. And you will learn a lot more. And we're going to bring you all more, but I wanted to highlight that one in particular, okay? The agenda of the narcissist is to steal, kill, and destroy, but in large part is to send as many people to the big H as they possibly can. And we are pushing back against that by combating radio frequencies for healthier living. All right, everybody, I want to thank you all for sowing your seeds into this ministry. Everything you all sow into this ministry goes right back into our growing community of spiritual warriors for Christ. Sending love and light to all fellow warriors. Thank you for watching, listening, and for your continued support. Till next time, let's show some gratitude to the Heavenly Father, and you keep being you. In Jesus' name, amen.